Hi everyone, welcome back. This is Eric with IT Conflict Computer Training Tutorials. Today's tutorial is we're going to be talking about what to consider when purchasing a new desktop computer or laptop computer. So let's begin. A couple things you want to go over before purchasing a computer is just I always like to do my research, whether it's on Google and just typing in, maybe even going to Dell.com. There's plenty of manufacturers out there. There's Dell, there's HP, there's Sony. There's so many of them nowadays. Acer's a great brand I love. But there's so many of them out there. Just figure out, they're all pretty much the same thing. All of them have the same components inside of them. They'll have different specifications, but they're all personal computers, and pretty much all the parts are made overseas. So really doesn't matter with whether it's an Acer or a Dell. Dell may use proprietary components, but for the most part, the important stuff's going to be all made overseas, and it's going to be all pretty much do the same thing. Okay, so a couple things to consider when purchasing a PC is what will you use the computer for? Are you just going to be going online, on the internet, doing blogging, vlogging? Are you going to be on Facebook, Twitter? Are you going to need, Excel documents? Will you need Microsoft Office? These are a couple of things to consider when purchasing your computer, because out of the box, you'll get plenty of software if you purchase it from one of these huge manufacturers. You're going to get tons of software, but junk you don't need. Okay, you have to determine what I want to use. What am I going to use my computer for? So that's something to keep in the back of your head. The next question is, will I need it to be fast? And I know this is a really stupid question. I'm even asking it, asking myself, or you'll be asking yourself. But the answer is probably yes. You'll need it to be fast. So a couple factors that are going to fall into that are the processor speed, the RAM, the type of processor you put in it, the RAM, how much RAM you use. But those are all a couple things you're going to need to consider when purchasing your computer, because you can have a great processor. These new Intel i3, i5, i7 processors are amazing. With 2-3 gigs of RAM, it's going to be like it kind of defeats the purpose. But so you kind of want to balance that out and just do your research on what and how much you're going to need of it. When should it be fast? Should it be fast when are you doing a lot of tab browsing? Are you just multitasking? Do you have several different applications up at one time? Are you running your Outlook with Internet Explorer? Maybe even streaming movies online? So you need to ask yourself, when should it be fast? Because these are all determining factors of when purchasing a computer. You want to tell whoever you're buying it from, the salesman, say, hey, this is what I do. I have this many applications up at one time. I don't want it to be bogged down. I want it to run smoothly. Okay. So, another thing here is hard drive space. That's very important. Depending, I know some people nowadays, we use our computers for pretty much everything. And if you're storing all your iTunes music, your music folder has 15 gigs alone. You have pictures from the past 10 years you've uploaded on your computer. That's going to take up another 5 to 10 gigs. Say you're ripping movies. I have no idea, but you're ripping movies on there. You need a lot of data storage. If that's something you need to consider hard drive space. Now, hard drive space, I think a considerable amount is 250 gigabytes. This is honestly very minimal. Myself, I have about 2 terabytes, which is 1024 gigabytes times 2. But I think just at a small level, don't go anything below 250 gigabytes, because you'll probably end up using it sometime in 3-4 years, depending on how often and how much space you're going to need. But I think on the minimal level, at least 250 gigabytes. Hard drives are cheap. They should be able to throw that in. The processor, I would go something with, I'm a big fan of Intel, but I also like AMD. My personal favorite for today, I would say do anything that's an i3, i5, or the i7 processor. If you want to spoil yourself, get the Intel's iCore 7 processor. It is blazing fast. Installed RAM, if you're getting a great processor and if you're wanting to look for a good computer system, I wouldn't go with anything less than 4 gigabytes. That's my personal preference. 4 gigabytes is going to be on a 32-bit operating system. Anything more than that will need to go to 64-bit operating system. But at least 4 gigabytes of installed RAM. This is going to give us a lot of internal memory when we're running those, when we're doing that multitasking. We have Outlook running, we have Photoshop going. We're going to need a lot of that RAM. Our computers need a lot of RAM to pull from, so we're going to need to have at least 4 gigabytes of space. So that's one other thing to consider. Another thing here is the operating system. About 90% of people are Windows users. Unless you use Linux or your Mac. Nowadays computers, there's no really difference. They're all PCs, they're all personal computers. But Windows 7 is the latest thing out right now. I believe Windows 8 is being released next year. But Windows 7, if you wanted to get something a little more simpler and then I think you can maybe even downgrade or purchase or find a copy of Windows XP online if you're used to it. But personally, it's probably about time to take the next step up. Skip Windows Vista and go to Windows 7. A good version to get is Windows 7 Home Premium, and that's the 32-bit OS. So we've gone over, we know how much hard drive space we need. We know the processor we're looking for, somewhat, no less than dual core. That's at the bare minimum. Installed RAM at 4 gigabytes because, again, we're at a 32-bit operating system and we're going to use Windows 7. Now, the last thing to consider when purchasing a computer, a lot of people don't ever take this into consideration, is antivirus. Of course, when you buy a computer from these big name manufacturers, they're going to throw all this junk software on there called, I like to call, bloatware. But it's going to be a 30-day trial or a 60-day trial of Norton, Trend Micro, or something. And after that trial's up, your computer's pretty much a sitting duck online. You need to purchase antivirus, and my personal favorites are, I like to use Trend Micro. Trend Micro is very easy to use. They're pretty inexpensive. You can purchase 3-year plans. Don't quote me on pricing. Visit their website, trendmicro.com. And you can check that out there. There's also a free one called Avast. They have a freeware, avast.com. They have a freeware version which you can download, get 1 year absolutely for free. You can get the next year and so forth on for free for the rest of your life for as long as they're up. But they also have a paid version which is a fraction of the cost of most of these other guys. Avast works very well. I love it. I use it on my own system. But it's a very easy interface. It's simple to install, just like Trend Micro. So I'll let you do the research on both of them. You pick the one you like to use and just make sure you get one installed because that 30-day trial is not going to keep you protected. So again, we talked about in this tutorial, we talked about in this video just a couple things to consider when purchasing a new computer. Going over hard drive, processor, RAM, operating system, antivirus. These are all pretty much the standard things to think about, keep in the back of your head when buying a computer. Of course, cost is probably going to be in everybody's mind as well. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, for the most part, you can buy computer parts. They're not extremely expensive. You can buy a decent computer system with the specs I've laid out here for under $500, depending on where you're buying it from. So that's just something to consider there. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment, shoot me over a message, and I'll be able to respond back to you. If you have a spec list or you want to talk specs, hardware specs, again, contact me. This is Eric with IT Conflict Computer Training Tutorials. Thanks for watching.